So, hey guys, I hope you all are doing good. Thanks for the delay. I'm sorry for the delay in the session. So, today we have Santosh Kumar sir with us. He's data engineer at Congress at Microsoft certified and 6 into Microsoft Azure certified trainer. And he's the best person to teach you guys on how to crack AZ900 with ease. And AZ900 is an exam, is the fundamentals of Azure is the Microsoft Azure fundamentals. So, I hope you guys will be able to clear the Microsoft certifications after this session. So over to you, Santosh.
Thanks a lot for having me here. It's great to have a live interaction. So we'll start right off. We did waste your time, so just jump right in. So let me share my screen. So great. I hope the screen is visible now.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So what we'll do today is we'll just try to analyze what are the things that you might need as uh, as a developer to crack AZ900. So there are a few things that you have to keep in mind while attempting this exam and why you need it. And there are a lot of things that we could cover. We have a lot of slides, 38 to be precise. We'll just go through really quick and we'll just explain what are the services that we have. So AZ900 is a very basic out of the fundamentals of entire Azure cloud, and any cloud that you take, it is the base of what you can do. So with that said, it is just the pure base, right? So when you have that mindset, it is for the people who are like new, who haven't got any of the experience in cloud, they haven't touched cloud, or they haven't got any of the experience in cloud, they may not have hands-ons and things like that. For those people it is pretty suited. Or if you are familiar with cloud, or if you want to do something in cloud, or if you have done something in cloud, then it is more of a skill up or recognition kind of a thing. So a bit about me. I work as a data engineer for Cognizant, and I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. And I've cleared 6 certifications last year, and won a couple of hackathons. And I also code with Python. Pretty much all of the things that I do is mostly with Python. I know Azure and Python doesn't go hand in hand. Mostly you see people using .NET and C Sharp with Azure, since that goes really well with Azure. But again, Python is something you can leverage on Azure. People have been doing it, so it is something that you can definitely work on. So let's skip through it. So what we'll see for this session, like we have 1 hour. I think we have 10 15 minutes right now. So, what is AC900 and why you need it? It is really important to understand why you need a certification in the first place, or what is the kind of thing that you're looking for into the certification. So, I'll tell you what exactly you can look for, and who is suited, or who can appear for AC900, and what are the things that you might have to do just before attempting an exam. So, I'll tell you a few of the tricks that I followed, so that it is easy for you guys to you don't have to reinvent the wheel again. So you can definitely just get my experience and start building stuff. Great. So with that said, okay, what is meaning that I have a AC900 certification, and you might have seen a lot of people having it. So what it means actually to hold a certification of that sort, and what kind of value that you bring in. All right, that is important, that you should understand what is the kind of scope that you're working on, or what is the value add that you bring in for any. It can be for an organization, or it can be for a project, or it can be for yourself. You don't have to you don't have to like really force yourself to do. But again, what kind of things that you bring into the table, or if it is your personal interest, it is fine. But again, whatever maybe, So it is like a foundational knowledge. What you get is what is basic of cloud. So why you need cloud in the first place, and what is cloud exactly, and what are the things that you can do. But these are the fundamentals of any cloud service provider. There are different vendors that give you cloud solutions. It is the base for most of the cloud providers. So what are the things that we would see in this AC900 is pretty much the common thing for most of the or all the cloud providers out there. So all the things that terminologies and the keywords that we would see is common for pretty much every cloud provider and how cloud operates in that case. That is the first part, and the second one would be beginners. As I said, if you can be a just starting off with cloud, you don't have any knowledge on cloud, so that is someone you can definitely leverage what you can do with the certification and Microsoft Azure. And you don't have to have any great technical knowledge to learn cloud, since it is just the fundamentals. You don't have to stress too much, or you don't have to bang your head a lot to kind of learn stuff. Great. So moving on. So what we will cover, since it is very short time, we can't touch upon all the things that are needed for the exam. It is like a 2 day course that you have to kind of people can teach, or people are doing it, but it is like a 2 to 3 days. If you want to teach something, the entire stuff, it kind of takes 16 to 15 hours, somewhere around that, to completely transfer the knowledge. But again, what I have done is I have consolidated what are the important things that you need to understand in the cloud area and with Azure. So it is not just the fundamentals of cloud, it is also how you use cloud with Azure. So what are the services that Azure provides? That is really important. So the important aspect of AZ900 to be a Microsoft certified exam is that it kind of relies on you knowing the services that Microsoft Azure provides. So what are the, let's say if someone asks you like what are the compute service Azure provides, so what would be the suitable compute service for this use case. So I have a use case, and what is the compute service that this thing would give me, or what is the benefit of using this over other. So these are the questions that you might or you should be able to answer once you cleared AZ900. At least to some extent, you don't have to know the exact details, implementation details. We'll skip through that. At least to know, let's say, if you want to use app service or if you want to use Azure Functions. So someone asks you like, "Hey Santosh, this is something that I am planning on to do. So what did you recommend? Do you recommend using app service, or would you use Azure Functions? Or there are a few of the things, compute services that you can use. You can also use Power Automate, which is pretty simple if you want to go with low code, no code platform, or if you can also use Logic Apps, which is another low code solution, like a drag and drop stuff. We'll just go through the demo as well. At the end, we'll have a live demo and we'll go through the portal. I'll show you how to create your first resource group. So you'll get to know the hands on as well, not just reading things would help. It is always good to have, or it is recommended that you have like hands on, just go into the platform, just dig around, click different options that we have, explore stuff. So it is not just what you see on the slides or what you see on the docs or Microsoft Learn platform, but again, you have to work on it to kind of be better at it. So that is something that you can really look forward to. So this is purely of the certification perspective. So what are the things that are the weightages? I'm not sure if this has changed. So the certification exam pattern, I guess, has been changed on Jan 25th this year, but it is pretty much lying on this pattern of so cloud concepts, basic stuff. It is common for all the cloud, as I said, 20%. And this is something that we'll go through one by one. I'll tell you like what are the areas that you should focus on. I was really bad at cost management and governance, and those things are already taken care by Azure. You just need to know what are the, if let's say you have a medical data, sensitive medical data of patients. So that is something that there are different countries have different guidelines how you store it. So Microsoft has few of the certifications that you can look up to. So how you should implement and when you should implement. Let's say if you want to, if your organization is based out of US and you can't just store their medical information or their own prescriptions on a Azure service based in India or maybe another country. So make sure it is recommended that it kind of stays within their country. So it is like the data centers which are operating inside US. There are pretty much I recommend using uh, East US. You have a couple of them. So US East 1 and 2. So pretty much I recommend US East since couple of the services you may not have it on India West. So there is a dedicated data center of Azure in Hyderabad. So, but again, I recommend using since there are if you go to Azure Functions, right? I have been using it for a long time, but there are a couple of updates for the India side where they have upgraded stuff. I think there are three data centers right now in India, so it has been upgraded. But again, I recommend since there are free tiers that you can use. So if you want to use a free tier, Azure function, then there are few things that you may not have inside India. So you have to use US East to get all the benefits of using a free service. So with that said, what is cloud computing and why you need it and why it is needed now, right? So as you know, pandemic hit and everything that is physical or you have to be there. So what are the businesses that has been physical for a long time? So example, restaurants, you have to go there to dine or you have to hang out, or if you want to do something you have to be physically there for them to run their business. So they can use notepad to take down orders. They can put it on the chef menu, and then they can start their cooking, and then they can get back to you. So that is the typical workflow. So what happens is if you that sheet, what are the let's say if you want to see if you're working in that model, and I want to take an example. If I want to ask a restaurant owner what is the food that people like the most, so he need to have the data somewhere, the sheet somewhere, that the ordering sheet that the waiter takes. So let's say if I have it on cloud, I can just write a simple query and then retrieve what is the most ordered food. So most ordered is something that most people like. Let's say let's consider that first. So that is pretty easy if you want to draw insights out of it. So if you store it somewhere, and it is to some extent okay if you can even put it on a on-prem. So what happens if you want to go into cloud, and why people move into cloud? So understanding that is really important before you start off with why you Azure or any cloud service. So on Prime, what happens is, let's say you have running a business, right? You might be running a website, let's say, then kind of for a month or two, it is running fine. You have 100 users coming in daily, buying stuff or viewing your blog. Let's say, I think blog would be a perfect example for you guys to understand. So 100 users, pretty much fine. Your service can handle it. So let's say you kind of write a very attractive blog, and it kind of gets engagement immediately. You share it on other social media platforms, and the engagements go skyrocket, and you want to scale up your server. So for that, what you there are like two options for on-prem. What you can do is you can manually plug in stuff. So that is the pretty much easier way, or that is the only way that you can do. Or else you can purchase hardware equipments before you want to scale up, or just plug it in once the traffic is high. You can just spin up the server. So what happens is you have to pay an upfront cost. You want to buy a server, you want to procure that, and then store it someplace. You need a network engineer to kind of plug it, and then you need to deploy it, and you have to spin it. So these part is really critical if you are running a maybe a just inside your own on-prem. Let's say there is a factory which is producing mobile phones, or they are producing some chips. Their data can be in their own physical data center. That doesn't scale up anytime, right? So it is not user facing or a customer facing stuff. So that can be on-prem. But again, the factory is shut down. Let's say if Toyota shuts the factory in India and they want to continue their production in Japan. So they can't just move these data or servers if it is not connected to centralized, decentralized cloud. Decentralized, I mean by distributed cloud, let's say distributed service or distributed storage service. Uh, then it could be difficult. They have to move the physical servers, right? So or else they have to transfer the data from their from India to Japan. So that is the part that why cloud computing has evolved and why people are started to adopt it in the first place. So you can just read through the slide. It is not pretty much big to understand. There are simple terms for you guys to understand. So all these functionality and all these things, whatever I am telling as a story, is kind of relating to what are the things that you see. Compute is the server that you spin up. Networking is where you kind of do some load balancing. Once you there is a single point where it kind of gets all the traffic and then it load balance to all the servers that you have. And storage, which is really critical to if you're scaling it to terabytes and petabytes of data. Analytics, as I said, let's say if a restaurant owner wants to, or someone asks the restaurant owner that what is the favorite food of the people in this area. So if that owner wants to get the data out, it has to be stored somewhere. So these are the points that you can leverage with Azure and why cloud computing is important. Okay, so we'll understand few of the I wouldn't say jargons, but few of the stuff that is really important that you need to understand. So high availability. So that is the first thing. We don't go through all these things. I'll just tell you like maybe a example that you guys can understand. So if let's say if there is a disaster and then you want to let's say you have your friend's home, right? So if your home power goes down, you can just go pick up your laptop and go to your friend's home and work from there. So that is where you compensate stuff for maybe electricity or maybe food or anything for that matter. So maybe a comfort. So anything in that case, you are moving from one place to another, which makes you available at that time, right? So you are all, let's say you want to work from, you're working from home, everybody does that. And let's say you have your street power cut down maybe, and you have your friend home next door, or a couple of streets down the road, and then you can just work from there. So that is how this works in a simple term. But in a high level, uh, you have different geographies. Let's say if the server in India goes down, then you can use, or the service would be up and running on US server. So you have that thing that is still running. So that is how the fault tolerance is also coming into picture. Where if something goes down or something goes wrong, then it kind of recovers from there. And that is if a disaster occurs, it comes to disaster recovery. So this is like a full-fledged benefit of cloud that you have. You whatever happens, your data is not lost, your user customer is not lost, or any sort of disturbance that is occurring to the system or to the actual workflow of your application. Let's say if WhatsApp has or Facebook has, they have like a distributed server, but again if the main infrastructure goes down, nothing works, or the application crashes, nothing works. But if it is just for the sake of servers and services, you can definitely use this model where you can leverage geo redundant. I would say it is like a jargon, but again, where you have data centers or your application code deployed into different regions of the world so that you can be available at all times. So that is something that cloud gives you. I'll talk about scalability, then we'll move on to the next one. So we have a lot to cover. So scalability, as I said before, if let's say you have 100 users in your blog and then it goes viral, how you scale? So as I mentioned earlier, you have to use your manual people or manual users to kind of scale things up and down. So let's say if 100 users are there, and then you get 100 million users uh, after 3 months or 4 months. So that is something you can bear. But again, if let's say there's a cricket match and if a favorite player of any people comes into play, or if Messi comes up after half time, then the the load of the server goes up, right? So everybody tunes in to see what kind of magic that he can perform. So that is when the scalability comes into picture. You can't buy your server there at that time. You can't plug in wires at that time. You can't like deploy application code at that time. Every second matters, and that is your user experience matters, right? Whatever you see on YouTube stream, let's say if you want to, you just click on the video and Santosh is taking class, and if you keep on clicking and nothing happens, right? So that is very poor customer experience. So that is something that you want to really improve on, and that is one of the greatest benefits of cloud, since it is costing less, and it is high available, and all these benefits that you get along with it. So that is like they are not cutting corners anywhere. There are few places they do, but again, this is one of the greatest benefits that you can have, instead of having a huge upfront cost for buying servers and any storage or any compute for that matter. It kind of gives you a lot of time. Okay, cloud model. So how things work. So as I said, the first one, public cloud, is where you have, it is pretty much Azure, where the customers pay and they have few, they give the cost or whatever the expense that they use, or what are the services that they use to the cloud provider, whoever it is, and use their services for all the purposes. And private cloud is where you kind of maintain, right, in your internal, maybe if it's an internal, uh, as I said, an example of an industry, chip manufacturing industry, which doesn't need any input from external places. You maintain stuff, uh, or maintain the entire thing within your boundary, so it is not going anywhere out. So hybrid has been here for a long time, and most people use it, since you have a sensitive data that you can't rely on any other cloud provider or anyone else, except the people in your organization or within the space that you are in. So that you can have both of these, like you store the data in your data centers, which doesn't go out anywhere. You have other services and other resources being deployed on the public cloud. So that is something that people have been working on, and that has been pretty much obvious that that is something benefiting for some extent. But most people move to the complete public cloud if the data is not too sensitive. So offerings in cloud, what are the things that you have in cloud? So as I said, on-prem is where the entire stuff. It is like a tech stack explanation for things. What I have just said, private cloud, the entire thing is in your hands. Everything, if your power cuts, if the power goes down in the building or in the area of that particular organization, then the entire stuff is down. So you can't recover from anywhere, you can't scale up from anywhere. The entire stuff is down. So infrastructure is something, maybe you're spinning up a virtual machine, right? In Azure virtual machine, you can choose the operating system and all these stuff. It is like a Azure service that the entire stuff is there. You can just build on top of any resource that you want to deploy, any operating system you want to deploy. You can spin up any. Uh, you can spin up virtual machines with any sort of operating system or not. So that is something that Azure provides, and platform as a service is more of a pass where you have like a entire application you can build on top of it. So let's say you have Power Apps where you can create different apps, and application data, everything can lie around. Software as a service is nothing but whatever you see as the end product. You just have the data access and stuff. You don't build anything. You don't manage anything. You don't do anything at all with the application part. So you just given data, get the data back. So any all the applications that you see is all the applications that you use would be software as a service. So these are the things that you have to be aware of when starting off with Azure. Uh, the basic components or the basic definition of it. So regions and region pairs is something we'll talk about later, and the availability zones. As I said, if there is two availability zones in a region, if one goes down, there is another zone which can keep your service up and running. So for Azure resources, there are a lot of resources that you can use. I'll show it in a sec. And resource groups is something that we would create right after this presentation. We'll just have it at 6:15 or somewhere around that. And the resource manager is the complete package. What are the resources that the user is being using, and all that comes into the resource management part. And subscriptions is really important. Whatever you do on Azure, you need any of the subscriptions. So it can be pay as you go, or it has to be a free student license, or it has to come from somewhere. You have a coupon code that you can use. So all these comes under subscription. So management groups is really key to understand how in a organization scale. So how people use Azure in the real world application or real organization. So if they want to have different, let's say there are different departments, HR department, finance. They want to manage what are the services that these guys are using, and they want to kind of cost them, or they want to build them separately, and these guys have to be to build separately. So whatever they are using, they can use any service they want, but they want a separation, or they want like a group that they can manage. So what are the enforcements that they can do? So let's say the finance department only needs readability of the data. They don't write anything to the data. Only the dev team writes the data or reads the data. They do obviously both. But if let's say there are business people who just read the data, they consume, they don't kind of write anything, or they don't manipulate stuff. So that is really important that you can have like a management group that can really help. So resources, as I said, these are a couple of examples that I have picked that you can use. Storage, we have VMs that we have talked about. Storage accounts that I also will show you. App services, I will be showing it in the live demo. And SQL database, you have all most of the database that are available. Pretty much Microsoft wants to enforce their own MySQL, MS SQL. But again, there are Postgres, MySQL. You can use all that. And we also have a Cosmos DB, which is really really powerful. They have like a millisecond latency. They claim to it is really really fast, and it is geo redundant. So it can or you can make it geo redundant, on you can also do the other services. But again, this is a millisecond latency that Azure guarantees. Azure Functions, I'll also show you an example that I've built, so that can you will get an idea of what you can do. So finally, there is something called as marketplace that I'll show you in the demo. What are the different services that you can list? So as a developer, you can build some service or some part of the. Let's say you want to provide something, you can definitely host it on Microsoft Azure Marketplace, where you can provide or additional service to Azure, and the consumers or the customers of Azure can use those to build stuff. So one example would be if you want to mail, something uh, using MailJet, you can do. There is some service you can use that, and there is another service which I forgot. If you know, you can put it in the comments. But there are this MailJet is something that I used for sending out emails. So if you want to send out emails with APIs, just give your name, email ID, and what is the HTML format of the email that you want to send, and it kind of sends it across. So that is something that you can develop. So it is like as it is said, open source, platform that you can give service out to people who are inside Azure or the customers of Azure. Okay, so this is Azure services, compute services that we have. So virtual machines we have talked about, app services we have talked about, container instance is something where you deploy a single container. If you have used Docker, we don't want to too much go into the details of each and every stuff, but you should understand VMs are nothing but where you can choose the operating system. It is giving you the direct machine to you, with SSH access, or if you want to remote desktop access is also available for people using Windows based, or if you are using Unix or Linux based, then SSH is the way to go. So it is for the virtual machines, and for app services, you can use choose the apps that you want to run. Just give in the code. So let's say if you want to do a .NET deployment, .NET has these incredible, I would say, deployment capabilities. So it is like a single click deploy, right? Just click. If you're using Visual Studio, and if you want to deploy a .NET app into Microsoft App Service, or the same case, it is for even for SQL Server, right? It is like a single click deploy. All the data it is copied over there for SQL Service, and it is pretty much powerful that if you are a coder with, if you're a .NET developer, and if you want to build stuff on any cloud platform, I would really recommend that you pick Azure, since it has very rigorous integration with uh, you know all the .NET Core on MVC and all the other Microsoft products. So it kind of really helps you a lot without any having a huge headway to lift few things. When you want to deploy, let's say, a Python Django application, it kind of takes some time to do it. You can also do it like a single script deployment where you can write a custom script. But again, for this one, you can definitely use a single click. And for even for, I'll talk about the so Kubernetes is something that people have been using for a long time now. It has just started with open source, and then it has got a lot of attraction. And then Azure kind of provides the entire K8 service as Azure Kubernetes services. So that is something that you can look up to. Just deploy something, create a container, just give kind of gives you an endpoint. Just do a calculator program where it kind of adds two numbers, just host it, and you can just have the feel of using it and what it is. You can just explore that area. It kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with Azure and what are the services that Azure gives you. So serverless is something that is that I have been using a lot. Even Azure Functions is something that I have been using a lot these days, since it is pretty simple. You don't have to care about anything. You just get the data. You just get an image. You want to process it. You want to extract the text from it, or if you want to do something addition to just extracting text, you can definitely use Azure Functions. Just call it from maybe logic apps. There is logic apps that you can use where it can call an Azure function in turn. Then you can return whatever. Let's say if you want to do a machine learning based project, you can deploy it in Azure function, and then it kind of calls, or you can use it as an endpoint. So it is basically an endpoint where you can use or consume that endpoint. And the beauty of using serverless is that it costs only how much time it takes to respond, right? So let's say you have an application server and it has been running for 1 month, and you have to pay Azure the entire cost of a month, right? So you can't just cut any corners there. But if you're using serverless compute Azure functions, you just whatever the time that the user interacts with the application, you just need to pay them that particular time that the service is running, and you don't have to really care about what is the uh, no operating system. But operating system can be there, but you don't have to really care about what is exactly running in the behind, like the servers, and you don't have to manage anything. So you just need to tell that this is the service level that I want. So there are few service levels that you can use. Consumption is one, but you can also have it like a dedicated server which keeps on running. It doesn't shuts down after 10 minutes. So there is a timeout period if the Azure function is not being used, let's say for 10 minutes or so. It kind of shuts down itself. So it is not costing you anything. It is not also costing Azure anything. So that is something that is one of the beauty of using Azure functions, which I'll also show you in the demo. So I think now you can understand what exactly Azure is, or what is something that Azure can give you. We'll go with the demo part, and then we'll just come back to the slides. We have networking services, storage, and database, Internet of Things. There are ton of services that you should understand just for getting into or staying updated with Azure, or at least for cracking this one. But these are something that you can learn. But I want to show you the real application, or what is exactly the Azure portal looks like. I know people who have been certified with multiple certifications, and they haven't used the portal itself. So that is something really lame to do, which I don't really recommend that anyone has to go through. Just get your pay as you go license. Just give your credit card details, and you wouldn't be cost much. Just spin up few. There is a 1 year free services that you can use. So you can read about that in the uh, Azure page, where you have 84 hours. I'm not sure on the numbers, but just a guess. But 90 hours of free VM compute. So let's say if you're working on a weekend, weekend project, maybe spin up the server, deploy something, run it on there, and if you're done, if you're going for lunch, just shut it down, then come back, then use it. So you don't have to really destroy the entire resource group to uh, stop the acquiring of cost. But again, you can definitely like it is, you can stop the server and then you can restart it, so you don't have to deploy anything new, or if you want, you don't have to deploy everything from the scratch. So that is something that you can really use, which is really powerful as well. So let's go to the but hopefully you will understand things better if I just showed you how the portal looks like, rather than just having uh, pure slides and stuff. Cool. So you can see this portal. So this is how your portal looks like once you get your subscription. So make sure just give out your details, so it doesn't cost you anything. You can cost like ₹1 or ₹2 just to validate if it is a valid credit card or not. But apart from that, whatever services that you have used, it doesn't cost you anything. So that is, you can definitely leverage. There are free services. If you just free services that are available to you, you can use it at any time. And it is like really helpful if you want to kind of start learning. So okay, it is 75 750 hours, so sorry guys, so it is 750 hours, so you wouldn't definitely cross 750 hours of compute time. Even if you're spending both these VMs, you wouldn't be crossing this. So make sure you utilize the first 12 months of your getting your subscription, so you don't have to really pay anything. It doesn't cost you anything. It is not like you don't have to pay, but it doesn't really cost you anything at all to use it. So you also get 64 it kind of attaches. So the managed disks are nothing but it kind of gets attached to the VMs. So VMs are just the compute power, the raw compute. So whatever the storage that you need is something additional. So you just pick and place what is the compute that you need, the compute tier that you need, and what is the storage tier that you need. So you just kind of club these together. So this is something that you can leverage. I want to show you the Azure functions. Okay. So this is something really interesting. So you get just 1 million requests per month. So I have been using this Azure function. It has been running in this subscription that I have for a long time. So you wouldn't exhaust 1 million requests if you're running few services, and I wouldn't say that you would really cost. But again, if you're running with the pure I'll just show you how to create this one. So we'll just go and see how what are the different services. We have three. So one is the compute, pay as like whatever the consumption model, and you also have another model which where you can have a dedicated service, where you have a dedicated server running. So you can definitely use that. So you also have an option to deploy a Docker container, so you don't have to choose anything. You can just have what is the okay, let me select a resource group, and also kind of subscription. Just give it a name, random name, Uh, so if you want to select Python, what is the Python runtime? So if you select Docker container, it kind of needs only the region that you want to deploy. So it doesn't need anything. So that is something that you can leverage using this function, Azure functions, which can be really important for any kind of service that you want to run. So it kind of helps you or just gives you an idea of how things look. So it is the same for your compute and other services which you can use. So my bad. You also get 10 app services which you can use. So F1 is like a free server that you can use, free tier servers that you can use. You can deploy 10 web apps. So it kind of gives you a lot of flexibility, which is always free. So whatever you see on this part is completely free, unless and until you have like a valid subscription. So pay as you go is something that you can look for. Just pay that, and then these are the things that you get just for having that pay as you go in a subscription. So you don't have to pay anything. You just pay 0 rupees for using all these whatever DevOps. I think it is completely free already, but again, so even you have logic apps now. So I'm not sure if it was earlier, but logic apps cost a little if you are running something. But now you have like a 4,000 actions that you can use. So that is something you can leverage. What are the compute services that you have? You can just definitely host your own server with this guys. So you can just host something. I wouldn't say you can host 10 apps, but if you want to have a portfolio, server that you want to run, you can definitely use this, or you can even run it with this Azure function. So you don't need a separate server to run it. You just need to render a HTML page, right? So you can definitely use just pure Azure function to kind of host it. So this is something that you guys can try. And I don't have really like a portfolio. I just use my GitHub. But if you guys want to build something like a portfolio where you can showcase all your projects, all your hackathons, all your wins that you made, or all your achievements, then definitely make sure you check it out. The Azure, the functions part, you don't have to use the Azure apps. If you're familiar, you can just build a small Flask or Django app to use it. But again, Azure Functions is something you can leverage. You can just post a HTML page. So all you need to return back is a HTML page. So you can definitely check that. But again, you have to do some kind of a compression on how the data goes. I'm not sure if you can send all the CSS and JavaScript files, but there is an option where you can just post an HTML page, the entire HTML page, which you can use. So that can be helpful. You can just put all the CSS and JS code in the same HTML, then you can ship it. So this is a Azure function that you guys can check out right away. Uh, so how you deploy it. So once you deploy, so I'll also show you the code in the GitHub if possible. So you'll just get this URL. So you won't get an access to the server itself. You can't just SSH into it. But there is a you know, server plan or service plan that it contains, but it is not like a uh, dedicated server. Even Azure doesn't know which server this is going to be spinned up. So you can see Linux based server and apps and slots. This is something you can really do. There's one free now. So this is one of the apps that is being deployed and that is currently in use. So you can definitely see this is like a app service inside Azure. So as I showed, app service is something that you can use, right? So app service is something you can use as a dedicated one, or so internally what Azure does is it takes the app service and it kind of connects it to the serverless function. So underneath the hood, if you see, an Azure function runs on top of app service. So that is how they have built it. So it is just the benefit of using the same servers and the same configuration. They don't have to build the entire stuff from ground up. So that is something they have used. So just click on it. You just get a endpoint of this sort. Your function is running. So this is something that you can use, or not sure on the URL that I had. Okay, this is the endpoint that I was talking about. So this kind of renders everything. So this is a HTML page that you guys can render. So all the stuff that you want to run. So this is the endpoint that you have, the API, then slash whatever the endpoint that you want to host. You can just have it and keep hosting, having a different endpoints for a single application. So this is something that I have built. So what this does is just gets your name, some random ID at some random level. Once you submit it, so whoever has the maximum, hope you know what is a word cloud is. So just type in your name, ID, and the level. Then you click on submit, and then whoever name is, or whoever name or this last name comes up most. Say let's say um, Singh has been the most last name that most people have, or Kumar has been the last name for most people, then that kind of comes up. So that is something that you can build. So I'll show you how this works, and then we'll just have a Q&A if possible. So I'll also show you the storage part of how things get stored. So whatever you see on this is an image, right? So it kind of renders it from somewhere. So I'll show you how where exactly this rendering comes from. So So you have a storage account. So as we see, a storage account is where you can have different storages. So one is so there is a this can be a mouthful, understanding all these things in just 1 hour, but just try to grasp everything, or at least few of the things that I tell, so that you can try out later. So I definitely recommend that you guys have the hands-on before attempting the exam. So this is the image that kind of keeps on generated. I think it is for 1 day, once a day, I guess. So this is the compute that I have been using. I haven't stopped it yet, so it kind of keeps on running. So this is an image that you see on the web page, right? So this kind of gives you an advantage, like you can store it somewhere. You can just put the image, store it in your blob storage, and you can render that image onto your web service. So this is really powerful if you want to have like an image static one. It doesn't have to be. If you want to modify it, you can do it. So what I do is I remove this image, or I kind of do an append of this this blob, and then I update this image. So you can also remove this and then add a new one, or you can just append what are the data that you have. It is kind of a remove and add to get the new image. So let's say if someone else is typing their name multiple times, so that kind of, let's say someone is typing Divya a lot of times, and most people have that name, then it kind of comes up larger. So that is something that you can really use, or really try out to just get familiar with the platform and the various services it provides. So I thought of playing with queue and table. So I have used queues a couple of times, but I haven't used any table or file share, which I want to use. But again, this is something that you can really leverage on using. This is something that you can really get hands on to see how things work in real time. So if you have any questions, you can just start posting it. I want to share the slides again. So I'll also post the learning resources that you can use. What are the learning resources that can be helpful? You can definitely use all that to leverage what are the things that you can have. So if you have any questions, drop it in the chat, the YouTube chat. I'll try to answer most of that. Okay, I don't think I see any.
Yeah, okay, so we don't see any queries from the audience side. Guys, if you have any questions, so
So
do ask. Speaker is waiting for your questions. Any queries about AZ900, any queries related to Microsoft certifications and all.
I think we have 100 plus people right now. So I think I've shared a slide. I'm not sure if it is visible. Okay.
Yeah, if you can reshare the link, I can share in the chat box, comment box.
Okay, can you see the slides now?
Yeah, just drop these links in the private chat. I can just share in the comment box.
Okay. So questions. So it kind of depends on the on your luck, to be precise. So what Microsoft does is it has maybe 300, 400 questions. So once you start your exam, it kind of picks the question from from that entire group. So you never know like the exact number that you'll get, but it can be from 40 to 50. It kind of depends if there is a case study. Not sure if AZ900 has a case study, but if it has a case study, then I would really recommend that you kind of spend some time. It would take obviously 15 to 20 minutes for solving that particular case study which I got. So I did get few of the case studies back then. So it is really helpful if you can focus a little on. It is really a matter of luck that if you get the case study, then you're stuck for some time. You just the time gets eaten up a lot since you have to go through the entire deck of things, the entire thing that you want to answer. So it kind of takes like it is a paragraph comprehension, I would say, or can say something of that kind. Right? Where you have to read the entire stuff, you should understand the question or how it is asked or the way that is asked. Then you have to answer it. So that is really important that you kind of see, if things are working or things are not. That kind of helps once you get into the questions and answers itself. Okay, subscription. So subscription is something that you really need to do all the things that I've just showed you. So
Yeah.
just give
Okay, so
out
we
the
have some
card that
questions
you
from
have.
audience side.
Okay, I can see them. So there comes. Okay, so for the subscription part, right? So you definitely need uh, a valid subscription. So just make sure you get the subscription from the pay as you go model. As I said, just give out your credit card details for the registration first time. So first time they would charge you, as I said, 1 or 2 rupees just to check if they can kind of charge you for something. It is a valid credit card, it is working credit card. So just want they want to check that. So once that is done, then you can use the free services that I have just showed. So all the free tier services that I have just showed you now, all that is completely free for the rest of the time that Azure stays in. And you also have an additional compute and storage for the first 12 months. So if you register today and till next year, Feb 25th, you have all these services that you can use. So that is the first part that I showed, all the 750 hours of Windows and Linux compute. And you also, in addition to that space, all the 12 months part. On the second part, I showed you like 1 million request, Azure function request, which you can use. So it is completely for free. Just have the subscription, you have the entire thing. So that is something that you can really use to your advantage, which Azure provides you. That is really helpful for us to learn, since if you just start charging people, then it is really difficult. So if it is not charging people, then people start using it. Then if they are more comfortable with it and they want to build something really useful for people, then they start using it as a commercial one. So that is why these free service and free compute that that Azure gives you, that really helps out. So I'd recommend you guys, whoever is there in the call, just to fill out the feedback form so that I get to know that what can be improved in the next session. This is really important for me and as well as for the community to improve on, to build on. Since there is another speaker making the same mistake, and that doesn't make any sense to have a session every time having committing the same mistake. We definitely want to hear your thoughts on what can be improved or what is the kind of session that you need. I think 1 hour it is difficult to kind of cover the entire thing that I was planned. So as you see, it's like a 38 slide stuff that I prepared, but again, I'm not able to complete all the stuff. But again, it is important just to understand the fundamentals of Azure than to just have the slides going. So the resources that I've shared in the chat, just go through it. So the key thing is to just make sure you understand stuff, right? So before you, let's say if you want to, so have Azure function works or how you have to deploy or what are the kind of deployments that you can do. So you should understand those areas if you want to really work on hands-on than just to have the certification in hand. So it is like a personal thing. If you want to just have the certification, it is fine. Or if you want to have like a hands-on, if you want to build something, let's say, hey, Santosha, someone is asking me like, can you build something on Power Apps and deploy it by tonight? Or if you want to deploy some application, I have application code. I'm just zipping it to you, or I'm putting on GitHub. Can you host it on your subscription, or can you host it on your servers? So that is something you should be able to do once you are certified, right? So that is a minimal expectation of someone who is not certified, right? So what is the difference between someone who is certified or not? So you should have the platform knowledge rather than just the theoretical knowledge. It is important to have the theoretical knowledge. It's not just you can omit it, but again, it is really important that you have both. uh, it kind of helps you a lot in moving ahead. Just completing AZ-900 won't be enough if you want to do something in Azure. Since as I showed in the slides, it's just the fundamentals of it. So you are not mastering anything, you are not master of anything. So that is something you can, if you want to build in the larger scale. Let's say you want to appear for DP100 or DP203, or if you want to go for AI 100. So all these certification, the base of how you understand Azure or how you are planning to use Azure is really important. So practice questions. So I would share a docs link which I have. So it kind of has few of the questions that it is not like exact question, but you can definitely use. I'll put it in the private chat so Varun can share it with you guys. But again, practice questions. Once you go to the Microsoft official page, right, the Learn Microsoft Learn, you have few of the knowledge checks that they do after every module. So you could expect similar questions. Similar in the terms, I wouldn't say the word similar, but you could expect questions of that sort. So I'll tell up to that, right? So that kind of really helps you in understanding what can you expect. So it is not just you can dive right in and attempt the exam even without knowing what is going to be asked. So you could have that knowledge of what will be asked. So you would definitely have some kind of understanding of what is going to be asked in the exam, so that you can at least prepare for that. But again, it is all obviously up to the question setter to kind of pick it from anywhere. The questions would be, there are few times that you would feel ambiguity in the questions. It is pretty much common in the higher end of the certifications. Since they kind of tend to confuse you a little. So they want to check if you are focused on the core aspect of Azure. So if you are taking up DP100, or if you're taking up, let's say, 203, you should focus on the data part, right? So a data engineering certification more focuses on the data part. And if you're taking up AI 900, you should focus on the machine learning part of things. So there are few services which kind of has both of these. So it is really recommended that you have some idea on, or you should fix the mindset and you should put that hat every time. So if you want to appear for a machine learning or AI 900, AI fundamental certification, that you should have that mentality of answering things with machine learning and artificial intelligence oriented stuff. If you're using for data, then have the SQL knowledge, have the knowledge of how the database works or what are the different offerings that Azure has. So that is something that you can really focus on. That is something that has helped me since I have been, once you take a couple of certification, you know that this is the part that they are going to test, so you can better prepare next time. But again, once you cross the fundamentals, right? So guys, once you cross the fundamentals of 900 range, and you go into the associate level certifications, which is TP100, AI100, DB203, all these certifications require real hands-on experience on building stuff and deploying stuff. So that is really important. Just having a fundamental certification is okay, but if you want to build on top of that, it is really important that you should have that particular space open always. Keep learning on that particular hands-on space. So that is the practice questions that you might need. So I'm not sure if you guys can give the practice questions. I can drop it in the chat. Meanwhile, you can fill out the feedback form. Just scan it, or you can just use the Bitly URL. You'll have to use your personal address if you want to give out data. You don't have to just click on the checkbox. You can do. So that is up for the practice questions. And if you want to buy, there are different services. I think even Microsoft in their own platform they have it. So if you just go to the platform itself, the Microsoft Learn, the link that I have shared. So there is a place where it kind of gives you that this is a, they have partnered with Microsoft to give you the feel of how the exam can look, or what is the exam that they can, what is the kind of questions that you can expect. So that is something that you can really use. Just go to the docs page, just scroll down, you will find a place where it kind of points you to um, the page where you can purchase all these stuff. But again, I recommend not doing it, since it is really easy that you clear with all these, but again, you don't have the knowledge and there's no use of having a certification. Since I have been doing hands-on, then I came to certification. Since so either way it works, either way you have the certification. But let's say someone is asking you a question, what is the first question that I have asked you is, if someone is asking you which compute service to use, can I use a app service or can I use Azure function? So you should be in a state to answer your colleague's question of that. That is the pure base, I would say. You should be definitely able to answer that particular question once you complete AZ900. So that is something that you can really look for. Uh, Question bank and the other things are okay to at least have some kind of knowledge. So you can't just go with random stuff, right? So that is something you can use. So all the sites that you see, just type for AC900 the question bank or something, you will get it. But again, I recommend that you have like a hands-on stuff. But once you get the hands-on, I don't think the questions would be the ambiguity of the questions would come down rapidly once you get the hands-on, right? So once you see the platform and how things work, you would eliminate the risk of having all these the area where there can be ambiguity even if you have hands-on. As I said, ambiguity will arise since there are services where both these things are there, right? Where you can utilize app service for, say, let's say I have a blog which is internal only for the organization. Then you can use both of these, since the organization people don't see the blog every time. So there could be ambiguity if, if Azure, if there is a question that there is a application or a blog that is deployed on the just inside the organization. Let's say there are only 1,000 people, so 1,000 people inside the organization. It doesn't, you should be able to compare the cost. That you should really deep dive into exact cost of using Azure function for for a year. What is the traffic that you will get? You should anticipate that space. If you have that anticipation, you can definitely use Azure function. If you can't anticipate that, there could be. So as I said, it is really difficult to figure out which you can use. You should definitely experiment, but again, which part that they are focusing on is really important. So if the question is more focused on, there could be really a little key. The keywords that they can shatter out in the questions, you should really look out for them. The questions would be pretty easy, pretty simple, it's pretty simple to understand as well, but how you look at is pretty difficult. So I should have included few of the questions so that you will get an idea. But again, you can look on the questions link that I have shared. It is a docs link. You just download the slides. I think it is a PDF. So it has some 20 questions, I guess. So just to give an idea of, or just to give a glimpse of how things look or how things can change, uh, that kind of really helps you a lot. Okay, I think we don't have any other questions. So hope you guys have filled the feedback form out. So it kind of, as I said, helps a lot, has a lot. It is like helping you. It kind of feels good to kind of get something back, to see that we are doing something that is useful to you and what can we improve on. So it is just to check on what level we are in. So okay, we do a session. Okay, we'll see. 203. I'll do a hands-on session instead of slides, since slides doesn't suit me a lot. Since I have prepared it, I have prepared 38 slides, but going through the slides and that thing is really hard to even study. I would really recommend that if you can get full hands-on, let's say if you want to build something, the word cloud app that I showed you is live now. You can just use the link, the API link that I showed. If you can just go back in time and see that you can use. So it is deployed right now. It has been deployed for maybe 6 months now. So people have started filling out their names. The name, you can just put some random ID, and then you can have some random level and click submit. Then it kind of goes into Cosmos DB, and then it kind of updates the blob storage that I showed you, the image. It kind of appends the blob. It kind of deletes the entire stuff in it, and then it appends a new byte of arrays. So I'll make sure I'll try to kind of have that kind of flow next time, so that you will understand what are the things that you can do with Azure. So you will learn those things automatically. So it is not like I have to show you that this is something important. High availability is there, scalability is there. So all these things, just to have it in words, it is okay. But if you want to really have it in hands on, if you want to visually see what is the high availability or what is the scalability looks like, you have to get, you have to deploy things. Since it is free, I'm insisting more on this, right? If you are asking me, maybe 2 years before, I don't think there is a free service or free service of this scale that you can use. So make sure you utilize this, and kind of embrace what Azure is giving you just for free. So I think, another thing that I forgot to mention, we also have a Discord channel for all the community members. You can join that. We have around, I think, 10K folks now, I guess. But you can definitely join the Discord. I think the link has been shared. So that is kind of really pushes you as well, since you have like-minded people there to kind of motivate you. If you have any questions, you can drop it there. You can take it offline as well. You can have all the community members answering your question. Not just one person's view would help. It also helps the entire community to know these are the stuff people are working on. So even not just for the certification part, even if you have any questions on the code part, if you want to implement something, or if you have implemented something and if you're not getting the exact result that you are expecting, definitely check out the Discord channel that we have. Post your questions on the channel, join the server, and make use of the channel itself. So yeah.
So, guys, if you have any kind of queries, kindly put them in the chat section. And obviously, some are saying thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation.
Nice.
Raghu Raja says, please do a section on data engineering DP203. For all those students who are willing to uh, attend more sessions on data engineering and all that stuff, I would please request them to please join the Discord channel. The link has been shared in the live chat. And let me tell you that from today, we are starting with the AZ900 Bootcamp, which will also be taken by the Microsoft certified trainer. And it is going to be started at 7, I guess, on the same channel. So you guys can please check that out as well. And it's going to be a 4-day bootcamp where we are going to conduct a quiz on last day. And it is also the mentor is going to guide you what you can do. And we are also going to have a quiz where all the winners are going to get goodies from Microsoft. So, and we have also planned a DP900 bootcamp for you all, and it's all for free. So you guys can please please join the Discord channels, and if you have any other queries, you can connect with the mentor on LinkedIn as well. He'll be happy, more than happy to help you if you have any kind of queries. And I think there is no other doubt. So thank you, sir, for coming here, taking out the precious time for the community learning. We really appreciate, and it was really very wonderful session to have you here. You explained each and everything very nicely. So once again, thank you, and thank you everyone for being such a lovely audience and showering all your love for our mentor. This motivates him. And thank you again. You all can join Discords for any other queries and assistance. Thank you.
See you guys. Have a great evening.